Raylene Jury is a wonderful person that I had the delight to talk to yesterday. We Zoomed together, and she has a fascinating story, and she does it with such alacrity. So welcome, Raylene.
Thank you very much, Dr. Stan. Hi, everybody. Thank you. Boy, that was really interesting, and I learned quite a lot myself. Thank you. I'm actually going to be talking to people a little bit about my story because I've had some significant changes in my brain, mostly from a depression side and also from reading and writing. So I'm very, very privileged. So first of all, I actually found the product 10 years ago. Someone suggested I have a look at a DVD, but previous to that, I heard Linda Hoggard speak, and I was very impressed with how Linda was explaining about our stem cells, and I didn't even know what a stem cell was, so it was all kind of new to me. And I'd just been come out of a broken neck and left side paralysis 3 years prior. So I was looking at this product mainly for my spine, really, because I'd had already 5 spinal breaks, and I have had 6 spinal breaks and other things going on in my life. But let's go back to being born, because when I was born in 1961, I had part of my brain sticking out of my head, and the doctors were quite shocked, and they just basically said I was going to die. So when the fontanelle would have closed up, then they thought that the brain would have closed up, and then I wouldn't be around. So obviously there was a lot of fear in my life from my parents thinking I was going to die, and not really knowing what to do. So I grew up with the doctors being fearful and also my parents being fearful. So jumping ahead, going to school, I couldn't really function very well at school because I had quite a lot of traumas between age 0 to age 8, actually. But school was very frightening for me because we had to read books and I had to sit still and all things like that. And I was used to just running around and doing things and getting told off a lot for things. So I've talked to my mum about this because she didn't realize back in the 60s, and a lot of people didn't, what we talk to our children about is what they become. And both my parents used to call me dumb and stupid and useless and good for nothing and no hoper and forgetful and you'll get nowhere in life. And that's how I grew up. So please, parents, be mindful, and grandparents, how you talk to your children, because I became that because I just gave up, and also through the other traumas, I just didn't know how to function anymore. So by the time I was 9, I had massive depression, and suicidal depression sort of set in by the time I was 13. I didn't know who I was. I didn't want to be on the planet. And from there forward, right through till I met someone who shared Cerule. Well, it was company before this, but STEM Enhance at the time. I had over 40 years of suicidal depression, so I lived in fear on and off. And it was really interesting, Dr. Stan, how you spoke about exercise being great for the brain, because I was addicted to exercise. I actually worked out in a gym, I cycled, I swam, I did aerobics and all sorts of things in the 80s. I lived in Canada, so it was full on there, so it was really great. I could do lots of things different to where I was on the farm in New Zealand when I grew up. So that was really great for me to be able to do a lot of physical exercise and enjoy a different kind of life. I actually became addicted to marijuana to help me not take my life, and I found that it was a savior, but also it had its obviously problems as well, because addiction to anything is not very good. And I basically helped myself with personal development. I went to a lot of personal development things and kept moving forward to try to heal myself and find out why I had all this depression. So by the time I was 49, so going forward to age 49, I could read like a 6-year-old. And if you can imagine how that would feel as a 49-year-old, still living in fear and shame and guilt, it wasn't very good. So I basically was this person who couldn't get into any professional conversations with anybody. I traveled a lot and did a lot of physical things and had a lot of accidents, unfortunately, but I couldn't really befriend and meet people who were professional back then. I found that very difficult. So I kind of was this Robin Williams, the life of the party, and being silly all the time just to sort of make people laugh, which I still like doing, by the way. It's really great to make people laugh. However, depression carried on. And then this gentleman said to me to come to listen to Linda Hoggard. I learned a bit about how the body works and how our stem cells work in our body. And I started taking Stem Enhance at the time, and we had another, like a plasma flow back then as well, twice a day, 2 capsules twice a day. And I found it was semi-okay, but not enough. So I was taking up to 12 Stem Enhance at the time. It was only the first generation of our Stem Enhance products, and now we're on the 4th generation, so it's really great. And I did see a significant difference in my pain, especially with my function of my spine, and my pain levels dropped. And the side effect for that was phenomenal. So what happened for me about 5 to 6 months later was suddenly I had no depression. Now, I remember another lady, Olympia, speaking about this, saying she remembered exactly where she was when she felt this change. And I remember exactly where I was and what happened. And I thought, oh my gosh, I don't have this monkey mind going around. I don't have this depression feeling or anymore. So it was a bit exciting. This is my side effect because I was only taking it for my spine. And then I've had no depression and suicidal depression since. I feel very grateful for that. And also my reading started to excel. So by the time it was about 8 months, I noticed I was reading signs as I was driving past in the car, and I thought, oh, I read that. And that was exciting for me because I couldn't really read anything, especially if I was driving by in a car, and I wouldn't like to read anything in front of anybody, and definitely not out loud. That was just a no-no for me. I'd basically be crying all the time if that happened. So it was pretty depressing. And my reading kept excelling. I was still a bit scared to do a lot of reading, so perhaps I could have excelled quicker if I had more confidence in myself around my reading, but I didn't. But I just kept trying, and now I can read like an adult. I can put sentences together. I remember Linda Hoggard saying to me one day, she said, your texts and your emails are just something, honey. She said, I have to ring you because I just don't understand what you're trying to say to me. Because I was diagnosed as dyslexic in my 20s when I was living in Canada. I didn't even know what that was back then. And I couldn't really structure sentences properly. And now I can. I remember asking friends and my mum to help me. It would take me 3 days to write one email because I just had to try to figure it out, each line and word and read it. I just read it over and over and over again. And even a few years back, I still had to do the same thing. So I'm grateful for the products. I feel now with Stem Enhance Ultra, I function really well on 6 Stem Enhance Ultra, 3 in the morning and 3 at lunch. If I'm stressed out, I take more. Sometimes I go down to 4, but I do like to have 6. The Cyactive, which is fantastic for me as well, because that helps with inflammation in the brain and also prevention. And all of this is about prevention, which I just love. I take usually 1 in the morning and 1 at night. If I'm doing a lot more, I would take 2 in the morning and 2 at night. I find I don't need the Cyactive joint, because I've been on the products for 10 years now. I've had x-rays in my knees and different things from having accidents, and they've told me I have cartilage of an 18-year-old, so I feel I don't really need any more cartilage help, and the Stem Enhancers help with that as well. And for the plasma flow, I like to take 2 a day. I tried to go off it. I thought I'll give it a go and see, take it down to see what it did, and I found I ended up with cold hands and cold feet again in the winter, and my legs started aching because I do a lot of standing with what I do. Do market stands, and I just love what I do. I love these products. I'm very grateful to have someone share this information with me. I'm very grateful to myself to be open to just try something different. I hear people often at the stand saying, I've just tried everything. And I say to people, well, if you get a bad haircut, you don't stop getting your haircut. You just go and try to find somebody else to give you a better haircut. So I use that saying, and I never hesitate to try different things, and I just keep coming back to the Surreal products, and I'm so grateful, and I'll never go off Stem Enhance Ultra. Oh, by the way, I did actually end up not getting the products for a while, for about a month, and I really plummeted, and I just couldn't even remember my spiel at the stand, couldn't function with my sentences, and I was just standing in the shower just crying and thinking, what's going on? So I rang Linda, and she said, because you don't have the PEA, the phenylethylamine, you need the algae in the product. So I'm really grateful to understand that that's what I need. So thank you very much for allowing me to speak today. And so many people know me, but if you don't know me and you would like to know more about helping other people for the brain, and someone wants to talk to me about suicidal depression and depression, I'm here to help, because that's been a huge part of my life, and it's all gone and over, and I'm so grateful. So thank you for listening.
Sure. That's awesome. Thank you very much. I'll clap for everybody for you.